NBC 10 at Issue starts now.
Good morning. I'm Lauren Mayk. Welcome to NBC 10 at Issue. This past week, new Pennsylvania Governor Josh Shapiro delivered his first budget address since taking office. He proposed an increase in funding for schools, but he did not propose any increases in sales taxes or income taxes. Shapiro introduced a $44.4 billion spending plan. It includes a $567 million increase for basic education funding. The budget would also set aside $16 million for 4 new state police trooper cadet classes. Also, the spending plan calls for using $24 million toward job retention and recruitment efforts. The governor will have to work to get the budget through the divided state legislature, and he spoke about that in his budget address and said voters want the two parties to work together.
They cast their ballots for you, and they cast their ballots for me. Through their votes, they asked us to implicitly come to the table, put aside the gimmicks and the partisan litmus tests, and deliver common sense solutions to the very real problems that we are facing every day.
This week, I sat down with Governor Shapiro at a union hall in Northeast Philadelphia to discuss his budget plan and more. Here now is that conversation. Governor Shapiro, thank you so much for taking some time to talk to us.
Glad to be with you.
You gave your first budget address this past week, and I wanted to talk to you a little bit about what's in there and what's ahead. First of all, how did you approach it? This is your first one.
Yeah. Well, first off, typically a governor has 7, 8, 9 months to put a budget together. We had about 5 weeks to put it together with a new administration. I couldn't be more proud of our team, our cabinet, for the incredible work they did. But we were functioning with a truncated period. And what I really tried to do was take the things I learned from people across Pennsylvania on the campaign trail, the things I spoke about every day, and turn it into action, right? Your budget is a statement of principles. It shouldn't just be an Excel sheet with a bunch of numbers on it. It should actually represent the things you care about. So I talked on the campaign trail and heard from parents about the concerns about the mental health of their kids. And so we made an historic down payment on investing in mental health care in our schools, $500 million over the next 5 years. Just one example of many. But that's how we approached this over the last 5 or 6 weeks, putting together the priorities based on the things we learned from the good people of Pennsylvania, things I cared about, and where the needs really are. The bottom line is this is a budget that is full of common sense ideas. It's totally balanced. It maintains a surplus over many years. It's fiscally conservative. It cuts taxes. It doesn't raise taxes, and it makes critical investments.
Let's talk about some of the things that are in it, and let's stay on the issue of education, which you mentioned. You are calling for an increase in education funding, but not as much as some education advocates and even some Democrats had hoped for.
It invests over $1 billion in new money for education. But for us, it was about solving problems. So I mentioned a moment ago, it's about putting mental health counselors and services in our schools. It's about doubling our VOTEC budget, because I think vocational and technical training is really important to put back in our school districts. It's about dealing with schools that are crumbling and have other infrastructure needs, making an historic investment, $500 million over 5 years in fixing those schools. Those are just a few examples. It's also about making sure that we address equity going forward. So let me break this down, if I may. Over the next 16 months, just because of how the calendar works with the new governor, I have to pass 2 budgets. And in the middle of us putting this budget together, the Commonwealth Court ruled, I think properly so, that our current way we fund education is unconstitutional. Largely, it's an issue of both the amount of money we put in and the equity in terms of where the dollars get driven out. And so what I said very clearly in this budget address is we're going to make a really serious down payment on education, increasing funding by over $1 billion. And then I've called together Republican and Democratic lawmakers to meet with me to talk about how we can actually address equity, access, and increasing our funding going forward for that next budget. The good news is the Republican and Democratic leading lawmakers I've spoke to want to get around the table, acknowledge the fact that they have a responsibility to address this. It's important to note that Republican lawmakers could have appealed the ruling of the judge, right? The ruling that said funding is unconstitutional. Instead, they haven't appealed, and that means they're prepared to do what this judge has ordered, which is to fix a broken, unconstitutional system by coming together to address that. And that's the process we're going to be going through now.
One of the first things that you did as governor was that executive order to not require college degrees for a lot of state jobs.
92%, about 65,000 jobs.
And I was thinking, this is sort of a political question, but when we talk about divisions, political divisions in this country, one of the places where we sometimes see that show up in polls is with a college degree. If you have a college degree, if you don't have a college degree, I think there tends to be a division there in some polls. And I just sort of wonder if you think about these efforts in a larger way to maybe bridge some of those gaps in the way people talk to each other and those political divisions. Do you think about it that way?
Can I say yes and no at the same
Sure.
time? Yes, from the standpoint of trying to bridge the divide, but no from kind of a political standpoint. That's not the reason for this, and that's not part of the calculation. Let me drill down and explain what I mean. We are holding people back in Pennsylvania because we have these artificial barriers to entry where we say you must have a college degree in order to get this job, even if you have the skills and the training to do the job now. And so we actually restrict people's freedom. We restrict their opportunities. So when I think about breaking down the barriers, it's less about the politics of that and more about, I want to give more people a shot. I want to make sure that they can have the freedom to chart their own course and the opportunity to succeed here in Pennsylvania. That's why I made that my first executive order to ensure that 92% of our state government jobs won't require a college degree. I hope, by the way, the private sector follows suit and creates more opportunity. Now, that doesn't mean that I don't think higher ed is important. I think it's critically important.
More with Governor Shapiro ahead, including what he's saying about the death penalty after the murder of a Temple police officer.